So I want to take the time and share a little bit about myself, about CreatedtoSteward, a little bit of what I do. So starting with CreatedtoSteward, the YouTube channel, is sharing in what we do and stewarding what God gives us and has given us to steward in daily. Rather, it's going to work, getting up in the morning, what we eat, the gardening, doing chores, serving people. Be a light of this world. Be a light to the world. Be a light in darkness. In other words, being an example as Christ. It's been an example for us. Being a slavery to Jesus, to Christ. I guess as far as the videos on the channel is I just want to be me. Like, I just want to share, not filtering stuff. Share what God gives me to share. Speak truth. The other thing I do, as far as outside of the videos, is foundations for pole barns, which is called Kingdom Foundation. My mission there is to walk with the young, lead the young, teach the young. Rather, it's working, truth, the gospel. So there's three things that I guess I strong stand on. I guess the thing, one of the things is I believe it's in Acts, where it talks about, take a lesson from the ants, how they store up for the winter, like food, just how the ants operate. Even though they don't have a queen, I believe it says queen or king. Basically, my understanding, what I get out of it is they don't have someone telling them how to do it, but yet they do it. So for me there, I guess it really teaches me, I guess my thoughts goes to financially. To store up, like for the winter, because the work slows down in the winter. In other words, just because I have more money than I'm used to, or maybe now all of a sudden I have a chunk of money, is being wise with it. Not just go out and buy, let's say, go buy an expensive camera or something, like just because I can, because it's something nice and it's something cool. It's being wise with what God gives, steward it wisely, what God gives me to steward it. So then, the other one is the parable where Jesus talks about building a solid foundation. So some of that goes into also for me, it really speaks to me as far as financially, not just financially, but also do all things unto the Lord. Meaning, whenever I go out and put the foundation for a pole barn, do as I'm doing unto the Lord. If it's a little soft on the foundation, if it's not on a solid dirt, it'll blow away. Like when a storm comes. And I guess the other thing that really speaks to me is far as financial part on that, I guess it goes to where the scripture also talks about don't lack common sense. And to me, that common sense, I guess, goes into the parable I was talking about, building a solid foundation. Use common sense, as far as like, for example, if I go and put a little piece of trim on, let's say I travel an hour, what do I charge? Not go charge a lot of money, but also if I just charge little because of fear of what human might say or think, but I know I'm going to sink at the end because of it. Well, that's not very wise. And also, if I just go charge a bunch of money because I don't want to do it, or because of need of money, or financially part of it, it's not wise, very wise either. In other words, I won't prosper very well either way. So not like a common sense. For example, like whenever I go do a big building, it makes up for the smaller buildings. I make more on the bigger buildings than I do on the smaller buildings. But on the bigger buildings, it levels itself out. I think it's something that really spoke to me in the beginning. I started searching how, like, far as financially, because I never pay myself, or how do I handle that? So I started doing some research and came across a very wise man talking about how the reason a lot of small buildings or small businesses fail because they pay themselves too much. They're not because of not protecting the company. So that was a very grateful, very valuable lesson there. I mean, that I've learned is there's times where I've learned where to sacrifice, so to speak, my time, my wages for the sake of the company, or for the sake of the one helping me. I guess talking about this, it reminds me of the beginning at the age of 30 when I began to follow Jesus Christ. When I started seeking out the Lord, out for the first time. And I remember of coming home from an event where they teach about the gospel. Coming home and just sit down in the chair and just I have no idea. This is the first time I actually digging in scripture, digging in the Bible, and I have no idea where to even go. Where do I start? I remember just sitting there and just thinking about, I have to be honest with myself. What do I struggle with? What do I deal with? Where's my weaknesses? So I just got my phone and started Googling. And start Googling as far as strengths, because I knew one of my weaknesses is just going along with people to fit in with a crowd, because I wanted to be accepted, wanted to be loved. And the other thing is thinking about how do I think, what do I really believe. And it's just I don't really know what I believe. It just is constant. That's just like Googling. What does the Bible say about those things? What came up was Romans 12:2, talking about the renewing of the mind. By having the renewing of the mind, I'll know what's pleasing unto the Lord, for His will for me. And the other thing was Joshua 1:9, be strong and courageous. Do not be dismayed, for your God is with you wherever you go. Now for me, I didn't even know most of the meaning of those words. So I had to Google it, go in a dictionary, search it. Like, what does dismay mean? What's courage? What's courageous? Like, what does that even mean? And when I discovered what the meaning of it was, like, wow, that's me. I had to start with the renewing of my mind, change the way I think. What does God say about my thoughts? What does God say about the way I'm living? The way I speak? When something that kind of aggravated me at the beginning too was I couldn't really memorize the scripture. It wasn't just scriptures, it was just maybe numbers, like bigger numbers. I had a hard time of memorizing something, remembering something. But the more I read and listened, so I have an audio Bible on my phone. I have these aftershocks where I don't have them on me today, but where I can listen to what's going on around me, but also through the headphones. And so I learned a lot through that, just listening, just listen. The scripture just talks about, be still and know that I'm God. And that's something that really helped me too, is it just have understanding. It's like, it's okay of not knowing. All I have to do is just listen. Read, like, the more I read, the more, because I was so determined, I want to know, and I want to know now. I had to come to realization, just to be okay of not knowing. In other words, I didn't have faith. I struggled to have faith. But the more I listen, I begin to realize I'm becoming it. I guess I was becoming it before I even realized that I was becoming it. Becoming the Word. I live in it. Because I was at this event, and I heard some people talk about if someone's not getting anything out of this event, like this weekend. It was over the weekend, 3 days, spirit time days. They must be too far gone. Must be too far in the darkness. Well, I feel like that was me, because I couldn't remember anything. It just seemed like I'm not getting anywhere. But I was trying to fit in with those around me. It was just like, why can I not have what they have? Why is it so hard? Well, after being back home for like 3 weeks, I woke up one morning and I realized what I've been trying to get rid of so hard for a long period of time. One of my biggest things I struggled with was gone. This was 3 weeks later. And that got my attention. It got my attention in such a way you couldn't convince me that God don't exist. And that was just the beginning. Begin to wake up in the mornings, realizing, there's stuff that I dealt with that I forgot about. Like my hurting wrists, my feet. I get a lot of sawdust in my eyes. I get work. I get splinters in my hands very easily. Hit deer going down the road. And those things just kept disappearing. One of the other things is headaches. I dealt with head trauma for years. when I was young, I think I was like around 6, I ran in a little, like, I don't know, inch, big round pipe, solid metal, poke a hole in my, close to my brain, and what they call it spider web. My school, my school is kind of look like a spider web, and so with that, there's a lot of trauma that went with that. So how I dealt with it back in the day is take a bunch of Advil pills in the morning. It was not to take like 3-4 Advil pills. And I guess this went on 6 to like age 32. Whatever the mass is there. 16 years. 16 years I've had trauma. Say it's no more. And it was a fight, a battle. But it's way after then. Since then, I look at pain differently. Got my dreams I used to have of falling, dying, like getting chased by wild animals, being pushed off a cliff. One night, I woke up and I'm just thinking, like, why do I? Because I'll wake up and cortisol kicked off of me, and I just this fear. And one night it's just like, man, why am I covering myself up with a blanket? So I'll cover myself up with a blanket to hide for safety, thinking, wow, it's safe underneath the blanket. And it's like, wow, what's this blanket going to do? After I covered myself up, I was like, okay, next time this happens, I'm not going to cover myself up. I need to make a stand. I'm no longer going to put up with this, because my Jesus is greater than these streets. So this happened, I think it was like 2 nights later. I just dreamed again. I woke up and I grabbed hold of the blanket and I grabbed hold of it. I remember, as long as I cover myself up and continue this, I will never be free of it. And it's just like I grabbed hold of it. I remember literally like these shivers like going through me. It's just like, just froze. And it was literally just like a shadow behind my bed. And just like, you can't hurt me. You can't do nothing to me. Because my Jesus is greater than you. And but it's like I had literally to speak it out. Be strong enough to speak it out. Like it took a little bit to actually, like, no, I will no longer operate in this. I will no longer put up with this. Well, that was the end of it. I no longer have those dreams. Never had them since. But my dreams continue in a different way. I start dreaming about people, locations, and I start seeing those things come to pass just the way in my dream. Very powerful. I guess the other thing we do is baskets. We do handful baskets, which is called graceful knots and weaves. So growing up, I made a lot of handful baskets. I mean, my family did it. I started approximately around the age of 6, and I got so tired of it because it was in the morning, get up before breakfast, make baskets after breakfast, and we'd go to school. It was just constantly after supper making baskets. I got tired of it, and at the age of 12 I said I'll never make a basket again. Well, here I am making baskets again. So that's interesting how that'll work. But we do a handful of baskets, then I do mainly the handful of baskets, then my wife just macrame. We also do macrame with that. So how we operate that business, a little bit about it. We don't necessarily, like 90% of it goes right back into the business, and it just helps with the inventory, like keeps the inventory, keeps everything there, keeps the foundation there. But what we're working at this point is just building it up. It's interesting. We go out to market on weekends, not every weekend. It's just interesting, like going out to the market to think about, Jesus, thinking the biblical, like we talked about going out to markets and all the different people we meet. How people respond to our logo. Yeah, my life has changed quite a bit in the last 2 years. I mean, really think about it. I mean, since the age of 30, 4 years ago, a lot of things have changed. I guess something I would like to touch on a little bit is marriage. That was that's something I battled with for years. I desired to be married, but just had a hard time believing that it would ever happen. So yeah, probably 2 years ago, it's about 2.5 years ago, I got married. I believe that's something to maybe do a video on later. Going to school when I was young, I despised reading, writing. I would hide my homework. I had homework to take home because I was a very hard learner. It was very hard for me to understanding. I struggled with understanding very, very bad. I would hike from homework to the cornfield. Then I would, in the mornings, walk to school. Had like a mile to walk to school, about half in between. Halfway was this cornfield. Go in there and pick it up, take it back to school. I'm not sure how I got away with it, but I did. At the age of 30, I started reading, writing. And still to this day, the only book I really like reading is the Bible. The only thing I really like to write about is what the Lord has done in my life and what He's doing. I enjoy reading the Bible. Yeah, that's something to touch on maybe later too. Just a little bit about reading and writing. There's a season of my life I was really struggling with water baptism, maybe not just water baptism, but there's stuff in my life where it just, I struggled really. I struggled with. I had a really hard time with understanding. And I would get up in the mornings, like especially weekends, like on a Saturday morning, and get my Bible, diary. So I wrote quite a bit of diary. Like write my thoughts down and just what I'm going through, what I'm feeling. I mean, down as honest as I could get. I mean, that, which has taught me a lot. But one morning, I got up, had a plate of food, a cup of coffee, go out and underneath the shade tree, and I start writing. I start studying. I start studying about water baptism. Just any scripture I could find about water baptism, just write it down. Because by writing it down, it slowed everything down in such a way that I could understand it better. It gave me understanding. Like it goes deep inside. It's not just reading it or hearing it. Like it went deeper. And about 2 hours in, I look up and I realize I forgot to eat my food or drink my coffee. And that really spoke to me. For I was hungry, and he fed me. I was thirsty, and he gave me a drink. But then a while later, I was going through a time also where I maybe sleep 3 hours in 24 hours. But when I woke up, I kind of feel a little tired. But as soon as I start reading the Word or listen to the Word, way to work, because we're traveling approximately an hour and a half to work. So I get in the work van. I would just have my headphones on, my aftershocks, and just listen to the Word. And I just became awake, or maybe music. And whenever English music, whenever I didn't really seem to get fed of it, I like the gospel music. I just switch over to like Spanish, something else. And that seemed to be more powerful at that time than actually English. But I would become awake. It's like I mean, at that time I was even living on. Sometimes I would eat a half a bologna sandwich all day, like in that period of day. Really wouldn't have anything else. And I just remember thinking, like, man, like I don't really feel hungry. As soon as I read the Word, I was fed. But during those times also, when I'd get home, like after work, I would try to get home to my house and just park outside. And it was just this calm, just relaxing in a way of, I just put my seat back a little bit. And I'm thinking, I'll just take a nap. I have the Bible playing. And, but yet, it was like, I'm resting, but I could hear everything that's going on. And during these times, I'd hear something, and just boom, I'd be awake, just jump up, grab hold of the steering wheel, and just be like, wow. Because there were things I would hear that I've never understood. Like, for example, like the rainbow. I didn't realize actually what the rainbow stands for until the age of 30. Until I start reading the Bible. Or like the Israelites. That is actually people. I didn't even know there was such thing until I start listening to the Bible. I could go on and on. Which I believe that's for another time. One of the things too is like I guess I'm beginning to realize just how detailed God is, how powerful the truth is, how He gives me instructions, how to live. How to live my life, why I see what I see, why I hear what I hear, like the things I see and hear. Anyway, that's for, I believe, another time. But what I'd like to do is, what I'm thinking is to share more about my life, what God is doing and has done. Been thinking about writing a book, but it hasn't happened yet. So, yeah. Until next time, God bless you.